Unfortunately, I've been asked to be very quick and short because we are running out of time, but I try to cover everything I wanted to tell you. In fact, what I'm telling you will be based mostly on what Randall was so nice to, in terms of complexity in the brand advertiser's world, especially if you're doing digital brand advertising. My background, I did that in the 80s, and then in the 90s I moved into digital, created a first agency called which then became Isobar, and then moved into the platform business and the data business. So my heritage is data, and my mission is brand advertising. And in the 90s, when I created my agency, we saw a lovely place to play on, which was digital. We had the convergence of three characteristics of different types of media. We had the mass reach of mass media, like TV. We had the personalization and one-to-one communication capabilities of direct marketing. And we had a built-in response channel. Unbelievable. We need to do something in this area, so we created our agency. And as Randall was presenting before, our industry at that time concentrated on the best available and easiest available benefit. That was a measurement of response. So the holy grail of digital marketing is a response rate, a click rate. It is easy to achieve, you can measure it through infrastructure, it's cost-free, everybody is using it, and it has been used mainly, obviously, in terms of e-commerce, response-driven marketing activities. The problem with that metric is, as it is the holy grail, even brand advertising activities are measured through a click rate. And as been mentioned before, quite often today, it is not the one metric we should apply for that kind of activity. Definitely not. But it's the only one where a consensus is in terms of measuring efficiency of digital activities. There are a few problems with that specific metric, even though it is simple, it's cost-free, etc. One of it is based on a study from Comscore. This is a 2011 figure. It's even worse in 2013, which is analyzing what proportion of the online population worldwide, here it is US, is reacting on advertising, digital advertising, in form of a direct response. And it is declining. And even if we are very optimistic, let it be around 10 to 15% of people who click. That means 85% of the online population will never click on a better ad. That means that almost three-quarters, even more, of what we are doing is not running into the systems which are measuring our efficiency and our success. Believe in investment, where only a very small proportion of the efficiency has been able to be measured. So everything which has been assessed through a click rate leads to a lot of other effects which are more important for brand advertisers than the direct response. Interesting project in the States last year. There was a research foundation who made the following test. They did a campaign with a banner ad showing a motive, a message, and totally empty. Just white space. And they were able, through technology, to increase the click rate of the empty banner to a number that is twice as high as a banner ad showing a message, an empty ad. Imagine that on a billboard or something out there, outdoor. Technology has been so advanced in terms of performance marketing and optimization of these kind of technologies that we are able to raise click rates for empty messages. If you're a brand advertiser and you are selling Randall's toothpaste, you won't have a site doing that. So click rate will not be helpful for you in order to maintain marketing objectives. What you need is the click in the head, as we call it. It has to make a click in a mental association of your brand to yourself. And as mentioned before in Randall's speech, there are core metrics which every brand advertiser knows. This is, do you know? Awareness, do you like, affinity, and do you want, purchase intent, usage intent, whatever. These are core metrics advertisers know, and there's a consensus that these are basic objectives of brand advertising throughout any kind of media. So what we need is, we need a replacement from the response-driven metric, KPIs like conversion rate or click rate, to something which is far more adequate in terms of branding objectives you have. There's another different story for brand advertisers out there, especially TV-focused brand advertisers. First of all, the fragmentation of content. Media buys are based on content, on placements, especially in traditional media. So there's a whole lot more to look at in order to find your audience based on a placement concept. The other thing is what we call in Germany the bath tube model. What you see here is the awareness curve during a block of ads, of TV ads. So beginning is okay, end is okay. In the middle, most of the people out there know that they're burning money because the attention curve is almost not existing anymore. So brand advertisers who used to be in a safe environment doing TV advertising need an alternative. And obviously, we all in this place here think it should be digital. What is the new holy grail if you look at these kind of activities and these kind of developments? It is the audience. So it's not the response in terms of digital efficiency, it is the people you want to reach with your message. And traditionally, you do that in digital media as well as digital by using market research to identify if I have an audience male 20-29, where do I find these guys? In the area I created my agency, which was a media agency, an online agency. We thought, okay, if there is somebody who's sports interested, we will take sports content, and hopefully our male 20-29 are sports interested. That would be media planning, early 90s. Then there was the evolution of market media research. In Germany, we've got something called Argov. In Greece, something similar, which is created with our support, where we took market research and asking people, who are you? And map that to placements and build our media plans based on that kind of knowledge. With the rise of big data and technology capabilities like targeting, etc., we are now able to identify these people directly on the spot in the second they do have a contact with the content page of one of the publishers. And the new holy grail will be, and as mentioned before, audience and data in order to identify this audience. And people who are controlling that will have a competitive advantage against the others who are not using that kind of technology so far, don't have the knowledge. How is this achieved? You all know this part probably, which is traditional behavioral targeting. So you look at people coming to your site, for example, once again, sports, and you put the people into the sports drawer, and next time an advertiser needs somebody who's interested in sport, you get exactly these people out of that drawer. There are several drawbacks with that. First of all, you just know the people who have been there. There will be far more amount of people who have not been there but are also interested in that kind of topic. Second thing is, if you're selling toothpaste, there will be almost non-content associated to that kind of product. So if you have an advertiser who wants to advertise to that specific kind of product and service, you won't be able to offer him something. And the third thing is, you know that somebody has been interested in something. This is looking into the past because he has been there. You don't know if he's still interested. So there's nothing to look into the future or to estimate if they're still interested in something like that. So what we did, and a few others did, is we added survey data. So we've been asking, or for example, there's no site, really a site, where you just by looking at content can estimate whether he is 20, 40, or 60. So there are questions out there which cannot be answered by traditional behavioral targeting. They can be answered, as for years and years, through market research. So you're asking the people, who are you, how old are you, what is your net income, what are you interested in, etc. And as mentioned before in one of the speeches for the Yahoo, for example, you can only ask a certain set of people and use this kind of information. You can use that kind of information in terms of registration data, obviously, but in terms of media, of mass media reach and forecasting, as you are used to TV and print, etc., you need something else. And the new thing is to combine traditional market research with behavioral targeting capabilities and a real-time market research engine that uses the surfing behavior of people as a kind of fingerprint of their characteristics. And use statistical modeling and find statistical twins. So somebody who has that kind of surfing behavior and another one has the same. One of them answered, I'm male. the people who are surfing in the same behavior will most probably also be male. The concept is quite simple. It's taken from traditional market research. In Germany, we do have 5,500 people being asked, representing 50 million TV households. What we do here is asking 100,000 people every month, representing 50 million digital households. So it's the same statistical model, but far bigger sample and far shorter cycles in terms of updating the results. And we are not just showing that a male 2029 is surfing on that specific site, we are enabling advertisers to book this specific type of target group directly, independently from the content. The advantages are that you now can use what you've been using in traditional media in terms of typologies. So social demographics, definitely. You can use, which is interesting. For example, planning to move is an attitude and behavior very interesting for electricity companies, insurances, all that kind of people who knew that somebody is moving home, needs specific services in order to be sold to. You can ask about beauty and care, for example. You know, we have got one advertiser using the technology, L'Oreal, who was selling colorations. It's very difficult to find these kind of service or product-interested people in the digital space without asking them. There is no content really available for that. So you need the kind of market research and applied market research to identify these guys in the internet. So if you do have all these kind of things like audiences provides big data and targeting capabilities, you need a few more things to do digital advertising in an efficient way of doing it. Target groups are the necessity. You need these kind of things. And as was Randall telling us before, we need other things. We need ad formats which are sufficient to create an emotional engagement with the brand. And we do need research in order to quantify the effects, new KPIs and metrics. Let's concentrate on these two things, target groups and research, because ad formats is something, this is a kind of IAB activity, which is a common sense in terms of standardizing formats. Target groups and research are more services. And they are rocket science, to be honest. The task we all have in our industry is to make the complexity, which has been told us far during the different sessions we had, to make the complexity easy, to cut things down to simple concepts everybody is understanding, everybody is able to use. And the things we are proposing are to take the things from traditional media, branding in traditional media, and put them into the digital space so that everybody who has been using them for decades now in terms of traditional media will be using them as simple, as easy in digital space. And we need to hide the complexity to technology. So it is a complex thing, and it is not our control center, it's another control center, but it shows that there are a lot of people working underneath the complexity level of technology in order to provide advertisers with simple concepts like target groups they know from traditional media, KPIs they know from the traditional strategies in terms of branding, and not on a one-to-one connection. There are several advantages doing digital branding in comparison to traditional branding. One of them, for example, is contact class. I came from direct marketing, and there was a golden rule. If you show somebody a price 2 or 3 times and he's not buying, you do not have to show it 4th, 5th, or 6th times, he will not buy. In digital, this means the concept of frequency capping. If you do branding, the opposite is far more important. If you want to have a message to create a click in the head, as mentioned before, you need a minimum contact doses in order to reach through to your target group. So the real ways of reach in terms of brand advertising is this part of the traditional distribution of contact classes digital. You need to raise the higher contact classes to really get the message through. This is capable by using infrastructure which is only available digital. So the principle is quite easy. We can use statistical models to identify male 2029 interested in a specific kind of sport. We can use a similar model to forecast that somebody who's been reached now in real time will be reachable within the next 4 weeks 5 times. Is the minimum contact doses you define as 5. It's a statistical model. If you do not have a certain percentage likability that it will be possible to reach him in that time, you just do not show an ad. You can't do this in traditional media. You just can do that in digital media. Another advantage for brand advertisers digital is measurement. So if you are a large brand advertiser, you are paying quite a fortune to all these kind of companies over there in order to do a kind of tracking, continuously showing your awareness curve, your share of voice, etc. In digital, you are able to measure in real time the effect of your campaign by just asking 3 simple questions. Do you know? Do you like? Do you want? These are the core metrics we've been speaking about earlier: awareness, affinity, and intent. There is simply asked through a small questionnaire, and L'Oreal is one example of an advertiser who used that and totally replaced the click rate in their reporting with these 3 dimensions in order to assess the effectiveness and the efficiency of their digital branding activities in Germany. Very simple, and even more, you cannot just ask and post-campaign report that kind of effects. You can feed the input from these kind of surveys directly into your infrastructure in order to optimize the campaign. As simple as direct marketers are using click rates and conversion rates to optimize the kind of placement setting in order to achieve maximum effect and success in your campaign, you can narrow down the starting target group, this has been built on a statistical model, into that portion of the target group who's most responsive to the ad in terms, for example, in raising purchase intent. So doing real-time brand optimizing throughout your campaign during campaign lifetime. So these are things marketers can only do in the digital space. They can't do it in TV, they can't do it in print, they can't do it in radio. So a lot of advantages in doing digital branding at large scale. What we need to provide is simplicity in order to use all that kind of services. Another very important thing which has been mentioned by Randall is privacy and data protection. Obviously, all this is possible by looking at people's behavior throughout the digital space. And there is the fear that that kind of data is being misused for anything. There has been quite a lot of discussion, especially in retargeting services, where it was so obvious that have been looked at and then presented an ad based on your behavior, that people were afraid of that kind of efficiency. Everything which we are doing in terms of brand advertising and statistically modeling target groups has to adhere to the utmost principles of data protection and privacy. And there is one seal in Europe, which is a pan-European seal based in Brussels, where you have to fulfill quite a lot of requirements in order to be privacy safe. And I can just suggest to anybody doing that kind of business, look at what's being discussed in Brussels. And as mentioned before by Randall, if we are not applying to these kind of regulations, there will be laws forcing us to do that. And this will be far worse than any kind of self-regulation we can do. Important is to bear in mind, as soon as you're working with targeting companies, these are privacy issues you have to take care of. But if you fulfill these kind of things, there are lots of opportunities to do. There's one thing, what was it, Fuller and Shapides? What was it? The both threads you have to discuss if you're doing digital marketing, and Randall was quite nice to mention it. There is a conceptual class. If we talk about digital marketing, it started here, taking direct marketing concepts into the digital space. What we are now doing is taking traditional branding concepts into digital space, with all the added values I have been talking about. The problem we currently have is that a lot of people working in digital space are based here and try to go up into this direction. Up is superficial, it's not really up, it's a different kind of activity. These are totally independent concepts. So here we are talking about one-to-one, short-term success. We really know whom we are talking about. Here is mid to long-term. Here is a response. Here is attitudinal change. Here are target groups, not one-to-one. Totally different concepts. And we have to bear that in mind if we are doing branding. Nobody in traditional media would try to measure brand activities through direct marketing metrics. Nobody in traditional media would wanted to know precisely, out of the 12 million people we've reached in our campaign, how many of them have not been 2029, how many have been 31. In digital, these questions have been asked and still are asked. I say, we are not yet so far that we really can do both at the same time. We need to bear in mind what is the objective, what is what we're doing, what kind of mechanics or what kind of activities are we taking care of. Is it a branding or a direct marketing activity? And we have to separate these both in terms of what we are doing, in terms of what we are assessing the effect. That seems to sound a bit like science fiction, but it is happening out there. So these kind of services and infrastructures, not just by our company, also by other companies, have been around for 3 or 4 years now. It has taken up 2.5 years ago, quite heavily, and a lot of brand advertisers throughout Europe are using that kind of technology in order to really achieve brand objectives. The good thing, and that's the reason why I'm here also, is that it is also available in Greece. Yes. The core prerequisite we need is a large reach in order to identify these guys. So our first partner here is 24 Media, and they are offering all that kind of service already. So if you want to try whether this is science fiction or not, I invite you to try these kind of services through our partner here. In fact, it is available not just for display advertising, PC-based. We can do all this kind of stuff through several channels, which has also been mentioned so far. So if you have an audience which is specifically associated to your objectives, marketing objectives, you can assess this audience in display advertising, definitely, standard, but also through your mobile campaigns or in video campaigns. You can use the same audience you are using in terms of media in order to customize your site. For example, if you're a large automotive manufacturer like Renault, normally if you come to the homepage, you see every type of car. If you already know it's male or female, you can adapt the homepage to the specific target group entering your site in real time. A lot of efficiency gains through that kind of overall universe in terms of statistical audience segments. There's one very important thing, which will be my ending slide, which also has been mentioned by Randall so far. In principle, this is simple. In principle, we can use that kind of things already at large scale. The main obstacle there is there's missing standardization. There are a lot of ad formats, there are a lot of KPIs and metrics, quite a lot of audience segments, and many buzzwords, many things which are talking about the same word in terms of letters, but meaning different semantics. So we created a year ago within the IAB Europe, the brand advertising committee, which is taking care of 3 things, which, not very surprisingly, are the ingredients of the cafe latte, the perfect brand advertiser's cafe latte you've seen before. We need a standard in ad formats in order to get the message in a large scale in terms of format, but also dynamic and interactive kind of ad material. We need KPIs and metrics which are associated to brand objectives, definitely. And we need a quality level as well as a segmentation standard in terms of audiences. So if you look at the different countries throughout Europe, every country has its own kind of audience segmentation. For a pan-European advertiser, it's quite difficult to do such things. And the good thing about that is, if you look at the members of the committee, we do have traditional advertisers, we have digital advertisers, we have almost all agencies in there, we do have the market research company, so it's really a cross-industry initiative and closely linked to what's happening in the US, because it is a global media. For example, there will be a proposal for standard ad formats display within the next few weeks, which will include some of the rising stars in order to make you capable of selling also to pan-European and pan-global advertisers. KPIs and metrics will incorporate parts of the CMS initiative. So there's a close link between US and Europe, but there will be a few European specifics, for example, within the ad formats, where we see that there are emerging ad formats which are used throughout Europe, which have not made their way into the US so far. And I can invite everybody to join this kind of initiative, because it's most important for us to make digital brand advertising as simple as possible, taking traditional concepts and enhancing them through digital USPs. Thanks a lot. I hope this was quick enough.